Hello and welcome to a Life Afterlife podcast with Deborah, Gabby Baker. Spirits Lifted by Gabby is my company and I am a spiritual medium. I read auras for a living. It's what I do. I also am a Reiki master, a crystallogist, and I help people who are grieving. I thought about this podcast for a long time and decided to run with it because most people that I come across in my work are grieving. It's not only people looking, for answers about love or finances or medical or whatever it is that they may be coming to me. When I say medical, it could be somebody coming for a healing or an aura cleansing. So because I can read the aura, I would see if people are holding any imbalances in their aura or in their chakras, and that would show me where I need to work with that person and what that means. As a medium, there is a lot of preconceived ideas about what we do, and I did ask people on my social media pages lately, is there any questions that they'd want me to answer? And a lot of people were coming back with, what is a clairvoyant? What is a medium? What is a psychic? Are they all the same thing? And in a way, yeah, but no as well. So as a medium, I would be, I suppose, the channel or the veil between this world, the dimension we're on today, and also the higher realm, which is where angels may be, archangels, our higher self, or your own spirit guides or passed over loved ones. In my readings, I do see around people's aura, so it will show me on different sides of their aura if there are any people there or entities. People also ask me, is there sometimes that as a medium you're channeling a negative force? And I would be unaware of that, and I would think that I'm channeling an archangel or a loved one, when really it would be an entity. And that can happen to mediums that cannot see. So some mediums might have a clairsentience, a claircognizance, but with clairvoyance you see. So when you're looking through the aura, you can see, is it an entity or not? Because they present themselves differently. So the answer to that is, I don't bring entities through. And I would use a higher realm around me and around the people I sit with. As in, I would call in archangels to protect us. The other questions I was asked was about clairvoyance, about clairaudience, and then psychic. Psychic is where you would use tools. So you may use the tarot deck or the angel cards. Or some people like to use Ouija board, an angel board. And with this energy, people can predict things that may be coming, but they're not 100% predictions. We all have our own destiny and we all have our own, I suppose, beliefs and what we feel that we should follow or not. Discernment. As a medium, you have to use discernment. If there are people that want to book in with me and I feel they're either too young or too emotional, or they're grieving really badly, I would probably suggest it for them to wait, or I would suggest for them to go to somebody that I know that does some types of therapies, maybe some counselling, some hands-on healing, or some psychotherapy. The other things I've been asked are, do I see things around people when I'm walking through shopping centres? Or if I'm just walking past somebody, would I ever stop them and read for them? And the answer there for me, no, I wouldn't do that. I do see things around people, but when I'm out shopping or I'm doing something that's a daily activity that I have to be with my children or my family, I can shut it down. Of course, I still feel things and maybe see things, but I would never tune into that. The reason I became a psychic medium to begin with was when my daughter was born 23 years ago. I had an experience after I had her where I was starting to see spirits and hear them. I wasn't really sure what that was all about, and I was very, very sceptical and nervous of that. when I talk to people about it, my family, my friends, they also maybe go to GP, that it could have been something more, like a psychosis after birth maybe, or a little bit of post-trauma from the birth or postnatal. So I went down that route and I got some help. And then over time, no matter what I'd done, it didn't make a difference. I was still being woken up. I was still seeing things, feeling things, and knowing things. It was very, very scary at first, and going from somebody that wasn't really into anything like this, I suppose I was very skeptical of it, and I was thinking, am I losing my mind? But obviously I wasn't. My sister came to me one day and said there was a Reiki therapist that they were using and that maybe I could go visit him. So I went and I had a few sessions, and I decided to join him in learning how to use Reiki energy and becoming a Reiki master myself over a period of 3 years. In that time, he made me feel more comfortable with the fact that I was seeing, understanding, feeling, knowing, tasting, and even smelling spirit. The senses come in many ways. So for me, I was kind of getting it in every way, depending on the person that was there with me. At that time, I was not practicing any type of readings. The only thing was I was seeing around people. So in a way, I suppose I was doing clairvoyance because I could see around their auras. I decided over time to become a healer myself, because I realised that I had gotten off all the meds and decided to just use my Reiki energy, and that worked for me. So I was really, really impressed with this, that I went on to become a Reiki master and teach other people how to do healings for themselves and for others. I loved doing it at the time, but then I had twins and I had to come away from that. Around the same time, I was doing readings for people around their aura. The very first reading I ever done was a woman that is related through marriage to me. And a few of her friends came over as well, and I read their auras, and they were all very impressed. I've never had to advertise. And then people also ask me, where did you get the name Gabby from? Because originally I'm Deborah O'Loughlin, now Deborah Baker. But my granddad, my dad, it was, I suppose, a joke. They called me Gabby because I never shut up. So it kind of stuck like glue. So yeah, that's where it is. That's where Gabby comes from. Some people do think it's Archangel Gabriel, and I'd love to say it is, but it's not. We had a few different episodes when I was working as a healer. There was a few people that needed my help, and I did help them. So going back to the first time I became a Reiki master, how I realised that I could see, which is clairvoyance. There was a lady, and the guy teaching us was showing us how to read around the aura. And I could see red lungs. And at the time I said, I didn't really have the confidence, and I said to my Reiki master, I can see red lungs on her. And the lady opened up and told me that she had cystic fibrosis. So I think what I was seeing was the energy that was trapped in her body of where she needed the healing. So that was something that always stuck with me. I have sat with people that have booked in for a medium session, and it might come out that maybe they might have like a hole in their aura. And a hole in the aura would show me that either they have been hurt in the past, there may be some type of abuse, alcohol, drugs, whatever that is. Holes in the aura is any type of trauma. And it can be trauma we bring on ourselves or others bring on to us. When I see that in the aura, I do ask that they're spirit guides and through the archangels. So I do believe in prayer. And I would say to the person, if that's okay with them, I will say a little prayer for them, and I would send on the blessings through Archangel Raphael. It always works. I always find that the people then send me a message saying thank you. Whatever was going on at the time in their life would have been rectified, or they just found comfort with what was told to them. I do see a lot of people that come through the door looking for an answer about relationships. What I would say about that is we have our own mind. We have our own decisions to make. And really what I do say to people is put yourself in your shoes. Would you want your child, if it was your child, to be treated how you treat a person or how they treat you? Or what's going on? Would you want it for the person that you're most close to? And generally that person would make their own choice then and make their own mind up. I feel like when I use the tools as in my cards, so I might use angel cards. Rarely would I use the tarot. I do have a deck, but I'd only use them if people needed to know something about a job interview or something. The other side of it is when I show people for themselves through the cards, they kind of, when they see it, they believe it more and they see it for themselves. People do come to me and they ask questions about their health as well. I do say that, like, I'm not a medical practitioner, so I couldn't give advice on medications or anything. But sometimes I do be shown that, you know, somebody might need a certain vitamin in their system, or their energy might be low. And depending on where I'm seeing it through the chakra, that would show me and suggest to me where the problem may be, and that maybe they could go get that looked at. I had a lady with me quite recently, and she said that she wanted to thank me for her life, and I thought that was a really strong thing to say. And I said, why? And she said that when she was with me 2 years ago, I saw red around her hip and her stomach, and I told her that it wasn't coming from me, it was coming from spirit, and she was to go get it looked at. Maybe go have smear or something like that. So she said that she did go, and they realised that she had a substantially big tumour on her ovary. She had cancer, ovarian, and she had to have it removed. And she also had to have her appendix removed, and that she's been flying since. So I suppose that was a nice thing to hear. There's lots of things I could talk about. And with A Life After Life, I just wanted to help people that are grieving to understand that there is an afterlife, that our loved ones don't just leave, our pets don't just leave, you know. I talk about grief, and I do healing days now. And when we talk about grief on the healing days, it's kind of like where in the body we may be holding that grief. And just little tools and tips on how to manage your day a little bit easier. And also, you know, in what way, like, is it through breathwork? Is it through going for a walk? Is it joining a group? So there can be really like things that are just practical things that you could do. But then there's also other ways around it that, you know, you could go to, I suppose, like a retreat day. Retreat days are really, really good because it helps you to understand what's going on around you, and you meet like-minded people that are in the same situation, and it makes you not feel so alone. With grief, it comes in stages, and grief isn't only about death. It can also be about like the life we had with a friend that's no longer around, or a relationship you may have been in, or, you know, it could also be if you were very sick and you're recovered and you miss the person you were before that, because illness can change a person. All these things, you know, are very relevant to the afterlife as well, because we are never on our own. I talk about this podcast being a podcast about afterlife with Gabby, but I should really say our podcast and we rather than mine and me, because I'm never on my own. And I feel like there's a room of people around me as I sit here talking to you. I feel when it comes to mediumship as well, as I was saying earlier, there's a preconceived idea that there's a lot of charlatans out there and people that would, let on that they're reading somebody when they're not. And you do get scepticism, of course you do. You get it in every field. But I suppose discernment is a big thing there, and knowing your stuff and making sure you're only going to somebody that is well known, that maybe your other family members have been to, or your friends, and they know that they're okay, that their energy is good. It's very important for your own psychic protection as well, that you are going to somebody who uses the energy properly, and you're not leaving there feeling drained or a headache or, Well, of course, if you go to a medium and, you're crying or anything, you're going to have a headache. But I mean on a different level, you know yourself when you're just feeling drained after being with somebody. There's a load of things I do, and there's a load of things on this podcast that I will talk about, as in like house clearances and things that happens with that, hauntings, exorcisms, but not to like a mad degree. But I have removed entities from people. There's also where I have different tips on how to keep your energy clean, how to keep your house clean. And when I say clean, I mean energy and entity wise. Also looking out for people, your children, your husband, your partner, your wife, your parents. It's just spirituality, being spiritual and being present in your life. So there's going to be loads of tips on this podcast. And with this episode 1, it's really just an introductory to who I am, because not everybody knows, every medium that's out there. And I'm Gabby, Spirits Lifted by Gabby. I do shows. I do open shows for a year. And when I say shows, they're psychic medium demonstrations where I'd walk the room and I'd chat to people that I feel drawn to. I would tell them who's around them, or if there's any advice that they need to be given, I would give that advice. I love my job. I do. It's, it comes with the good and the bad, but it's mostly good. And when I say the bad, it's making sure that every day people leave me happy, that they leave me feeling that they got what they needed, that, they feel healed, they feel whole, and they're happier. When people are down on their luck, it's really important that they do what's right for them in the moment. There was other questions that were put to me, do you feel judged? And I would probably say, let's say 15 years ago when I started doing readings, I didn't tell people what I'd done. And now I would. It doesn't bother me. I suppose it comes with everything as, if you always feel that you have to defend yourself, it can get a little bit, I suppose, awkward for you. It's not like when somebody's going into the bank, you say, you work in a bank, oh my God, I don't agree with that. So I suppose every profession has its ups and downs, But yeah, I wrote down a few things because people were asking me questions. I suppose they were asking me about the signs. There was another one, what's the signs? And one of the biggest signs that I would feel would probably be a taste in your mouth or a smell. And a lot of people don't realise that they're signs. So you might taste something and it's like, that reminds me of maybe my nanny's kitchen, or, or a smell, a distinct smell that might come around you and it's someone's perfume. And that could be somebody that passed on more recently, that somebody's wearing their perfume. But it's all the little signs they will give you. It could be sitting into the car and a certain song comes on that they loved. Feathers where they shouldn't be. And also like ringing in the ears or itchy ears. That can be a big sign of spirit being around you, because their dimension is so high. It's very hard if you don't have clairaudience, which is where you hear spirit. it's very hard for them to get on your level and let you hear them. So either you'll be talking to them in your thoughts and you hear them in your thoughts answering you back, or else you'll get itchy ears or a high-pitched tone in your ears. They're the signs. The other ones are like the usual, robins or butterflies, or, maybe they're little ladybugs. Some people see ladybugs when there's good things coming for them. A magpie. Magpies can present themselves as loved ones. And it's more like when you feel really, really down on your luck or sad, that the magpie will present itself, but it's not really one for sorrow. If it's a Passover loved one coming around you, a lot it would be them saying, I know that you're sad right now and I'm here for you. The robin is more, the robin would, like, they'd be there, but they'd tap themselves in front of you, or like they might pop up beside you. That's when you know it's a spirit. They really make themselves seen. Coins on the floor. Coins on the floor is an old one, but it's normally older loved ones coming to visit you because you may have been praying for something monetary to happen, and the coins on the floor would be their signal saying to you, I'm going to help you. I'm going to look after you. There's loads, when I say about smells as well, the smell of roses, that normally and generally would represent the mother energy coming around you. Colours as well. Colours, if you're kind of getting hazy colours in front of your eyes when you close your eyes at night, that can be a certain part of your body that your loved ones are healing for you. There's a lot of things that we will cover on this podcast, and I'm so, I suppose, excited to get it up and running. We will be covering past life regression therapy. We will be covering, as I said, hauntings and clearing houses. We will be covering every different type of healing that we could have to help us with grief. All the different types of psychic experiences that maybe I've had. I'll tell you a few funny stories and some terrifying stories. But yeah, so this is an exciting time for Spirits Lifted by Gabby. And so until our next podcast episode, don't ghost me. Psychic medium Gabby Baker on my TikTok, and it's Deborah Gabby Baker on my Facebook. So if you want to give me a follow, follow me at Deborah Baker 75 on Instagram so that you can see the podcast. That would be great. And just to put out there, I also have a show coming up in the Green Isle on May 21st. It's a Thursday night, and tickets are on sale on Eventbrite. And that's Spirits Lifted by Gabby. Thank you. A Life Afterlife podcast is for entertainment purposes only. I am not a legal, medical or financial professional, but I am your spiritual friend. Any spiritual advice given on this podcast is not a substitute for legal, psychological, medical or financial advice. Discretion is advised. You, my listener, holds full responsibility for your own spiritual results, growth and protection at this time. Thank you.